God, what a privilege it is for me to be able to minister on World Evangelism Night. I love doing that. I often say on a Thursday night, I am the son of missionaries. My parents are missionaries. My wife and I have been missionaries. And now I have the privilege of being able to launch other couples into the mission field and preach on Thursday nights to challenge other people for other nations. Thank God. Turn in your Bibles to 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Wealthy people, often they have trusts in place. They decide in advance what they want their money to accomplish after they die. They don't want their money to be simply used for their own purposes or to be wasted by other people. So often they establish in advance a trust that has a spending plan. They will determine in advance a foundation, a charity, whatever it is they want, but they have a spending plan in mind so that their money makes impact. The text that we're going to read, Paul tells of a spending plan he has both for his money and for his life in order to accomplish God's will. I want to preach to you tonight about the spending plan. 2 Corinthians 12, 14 and 15. Now for the third time I'm ready to come to you, and I will not be burdensome to you, for I do not seek yours, but you. For the children ought not to lay up for the parents, but the parents for the children. And I will very gladly spend and be spent for your souls, though the more abundantly I love you, the less I am loved. The spending plan. Let's begin. I want to look at the mistake of selfish living. Every person here, I want to impress upon you, you have only one life to live. One. Unless you're Roma Gutierrez. One. And with your one life, you have to decide in advance, what do you want to accomplish with your life? The mistaken approach of life is when you live for yourself. Philippians 2:21, for everyone looks out for his own interests, not those of Jesus Christ. If you live life and every decision at the heart of it is simply what's in it for me, that's a mistake. People sometimes they are unwilling to spend for something good. Matthew 16:25, whoever desires to save his life will lose it. They hold back for themselves, thinking that somehow they're going to gain something. My wife and I, we have 4 grandchildren. We give our grandchildren money at birthday, Christmas, various times. One of the reasons why we give them money is we're teaching them how to use it and what you can do with it. Our grandchildren, after giving them money, they will go to the store. They are so excited. They're counting. They're looking at what they can buy. And it's, of course, toys and things, but they're learning that you have to spend. I have one grandson. He loves going to the store with his money. He is carefully thinking about what he can buy. And then it's like, okay, we pick that out. And then we say, all right, now give the, and he's like, he does not want to spend, but he expects to get something good. And we explain life doesn't work that way. Some people refuse to spend by obeying God altogether, like Jonah who ran from God. I see disciples that they run from calling. I see pastors that have come back for redirection and the thought of going back in ministry. Absolutely not. Pastors are challenged. Are you going to plant a church this conference? And they say, not yet. There's no one ready like you were when you went. Not this year, next year. They're holding back. People called to go overseas, but they say no. Others are willing to spend a little or part way, but they still want to withhold or hold something back. They want to live in such a way that they get to retain control. They can hold on to their plans and their dreams. They can determine what happens. I know several former leaders of our fellowship that I know them personally. God dealt with them to move, leave their church and go pioneer somewhere or to go overseas. And they said no. They were not willing to let go of money, position, and attention. Some people live in such a way, how can I make my life the most comfortable financially? Proverbs 11:24, there is one that withholds more than is right, or withholds more than what he should give. The Bible tells of Lot in Genesis 13:10 and 11. Lot lifted his eyes. He saw all the plain of Jordan, that it was watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord. Then Lot chose for himself all the plain of Jordan. One life. Are you willing to invest and spend? Are you willing to become a pastor? Are you willing to pioneer? But they're counting the pounds and the pence. They're counting the dollars, the euros, whatever your currency is. That is the determining factor. I have offered men of God churches opportunities to pastor, to take a church, and they're asking like, what is the salary? What is the benefit package? Does it come with a dental plan? And I say, never mind. If that is your only consideration in doing the will of God, I don't think that I want you to be there. We'll find someone else. Some people are unwilling to obey God financially. For some, it's as simple as they will not tithe. They will not trust God with the first 10% of their income. But others, they tithe, but they are not willing to obey God when he speaks to them about what he wants them to give. Like Ananias and Sapphira, Acts 5:1 and 2. Ananias with Sapphira, his wife, sold a possession and kept back part of the proceeds. His wife was also aware of it. God was bringing the most incredible revival in Jerusalem, but they were holding back. God apparently had spoken to them. And now when it comes down to it, they said, no, I'm not willing to do everything that God says. Withholding. You know the truth about the one life that you have, everyone is spending their life on something. If you're not spending your life on God and his will, that means you're spending it for yourself. You're spending your life for money and possessions. Spending your life for your career. Spending for attention and fame. Every person here, I challenge you, you have to make sure you spend your life for something that is worth it. It has to be worth your life. Philippians 2:16, that I have not run in vain or labored in vain. That word vain is empty or hollow. One man said the danger is that we succeed in things that are not important. To not achieve anything of significance. I was reading about 3 friends. They were visiting the city of Chicago, taking photos of the Chicago River. This is in wintertime. One of them dropped his cell phone onto the ice. He walked out on the ice to retrieve his cell phone, broke through the ice, fell into the water. His friend came to help him. He fell through the ice, and they both died in the freezing water. Reporters interviewed people who saw what happened. A lady said, I guess I can understand the impulse. Your cell phone is sort of part of you, and we're kind of tied to it, but it's only a cell phone. To lose your life for a cell phone? That's incredible. But I see people that they are losing their life. What do you have better than the will of God? To lose their life wasting their time on video games? To lose their life on possessions that won't last? Let's talk about spending and being spent. Very simple principle in life. Anything good in life is going to cost you. And something is offered to you for free. It's often because it's junk. That's why it's free. It has no value. There are people that are unwilling to spend for things that are good. They either don't see its value or they're selfish. They're simply not willing. But good things cost. Matthew 13:44, the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which when a man found it, he hid it. And for joy, he went and sold all that he had to buy that field. When you see something and you understand its value, you have to pay. You got to pay the cost in order to get it. The will of God, according to our text, requires that we spend our finances. Verse 15, I will very gladly spend. That is talking about his money. The context of the text, Paul, when he preached in Corinth, when he pioneered the church, he supported himself financially when he did that. It cost him. Verse 14, now for the third time, I'm ready to come to you, and I will not be burdensome to you, for I do not seek yours or what belongs to you, but I seek you. For the children ought not to lay up for the parents, but the parents for the children. Paul, he said, when I pioneered, I didn't charge you anything. It cost me personally. I supported so that you could be saved. He says, when I come again, I'm willing to do that at no charge, at my expense. The reason why he's doing that doesn't take away the principle of support for ministry. He was doing this so that his motives wouldn't be suspected of evil. In other words, he said, I'm not coming to get from you. I'm coming to give. I'm not coming so that it costs you. I'm willing to pay because of what I value in you. Listen, God's plan of reaching the world, that's what we're focusing on in this Thursday night. We are talking about reaching the world for Jesus Christ. And it requires, that plan requires that we spend our finances. In every area, outreaches cost money. Impact teams cost money. Church planting costs money. We don't just say, God bless you, be warmed and filled. We send money. We support them. We help them move. We support their outreaches, buy equipment, rent buildings. And world evangelism on a Thursday night. I plant from Prescott. We plant churches internationally. It is the most expensive thing that you can do as a church and as a fellowship. There is a reason why other fellowships are not doing what we're doing. You know why? Because it costs so much. Visas, airfares, rent, housing, renting buildings, buying vehicles. Philippians 4:15 and 16, Paul writes, now you Philippians know also in the beginning of the gospel, that means when I pioneered the church there, I departed from Macedonia, no church shared with me concerning giving and receiving, but you only. For even in Thessalonica, you sent aid once and again for my necessities. And so when talking about the world, we spend whatever it takes because rescuing people is worth it. Luke 10:35, the next day when he departed, he took out 2 denarii, gave it to the innkeeper and said to him, take care of him, and whatever more you spend when I come again, I will repay you. How much do we spend to reach the world? According to that text, whatever it takes. That is the issue. It's expensive, so be it. Let's invest. But we must We must invest our finances to reach the world. And then Paul says the will of God doesn't simply require that your finances be spent. It requires that we be spent. Literally, that we spend our lives. Verse 15, I will very gladly spend and be spent for your souls. This is talking about the personal cost of doing God's will, whatever that cost will be in each person's life. John 12:24, unless a grain of wheat fall to the ground and die, it abides alone. There are things that must die in our lives. That might be your dreams, your plans. That might be the issues of life that you had your heart set on. You have to die to certain things. That literally means voluntarily laying them down in order to achieve God's will. I have plans, but God planned otherwise. Things that are familiar. Genesis 12:2, Abram, leave your country, going to a place that is completely unfamiliar. Some of you, God will call you to go back to the place that you escaped for a better life. And God says, no, go back. But for others, my wife and I went to Johannesburg, South Africa. Very different. It was not familiar at all. But that's the cost. Family, leave your family. Finances. This is the battle for many missionaries. My wife and I, we're overseas, we're laboring, we're doing fine. The Prescott Church supported us, we're doing fine. But then I'm getting messages and emails from my friends, bought my second investment property, got my third, realize I'm a millionaire now. And I want to be honest with you while doing, I wish I could just say that didn't bother me, but I'm thinking, Lord, we're doing here, we're getting by. We're not starving. And yet, if we didn't come, would I be prospering more financially? You gotta make up your mind. What is it you want to spend your life for? Our lives must be spent for God and His will. And if you're spending your life for God's will, that means you can't spend your life for other things at the same time. Philippians 2:17, for I am being poured out as a drink offering on the sacrifice and the service of your faith. I said to you in the beginning, you have only one life. One life. Some of you are so young right now. I remember I was a teenager when God called. I was 16 years old when God called me. I was 21 years old when we were launched into the ministry. I looked, but the years of 40 years have blurred by. It is unbelievable how fast life goes. You have to decide in your life that is going to go by in a blink. What do you want your life to accomplish? The old quotation says, only one life will soon be passed. Only what's done for Christ will last. It was Robert Moffat. He was saved in Scotland when he was a boy. His church, they had a missions meeting. They were focusing on raising money for world evangelism. It would be their version of Thursday night of conference. And they passed the offering basket. And when it came to this boy, Robert Moffat, he took the basket from the usher, set it on the ground, and he stood in it, and he said, I have nothing to give God but myself. He wound up becoming a missionary to South Africa, and his influence stirred thousands of people to give for missions, to send and to go into the mission field. It's going to cost you. You have to be willing to spend your finances and to spend your life. And in this text, how did Paul feel about spending his life and his money for souls? Verse 15, I will very gladly spend and be spent for your souls. Paul says, yes, it's cost me financially and it's worth it. my plans, my dreams, yeah, I left those behind. It's worth it for the souls of men and women. Let's think about the greatest purchase. You know, the whole point of spending is to be able to purchase something. If you're spending and you don't get anything in return, you probably should have paid more attention in math. But we spend, which is what Paul is saying, and the whole reason why you spend, you want to get something for it. And most of the time, let's be honest, what we want to purchase, it's not going to last. Some of you, for conference, you spend a lot of money on what you have been wearing this week. Take a tip from an older man. My wife and I, we look back on old photos, and I look at what we're wearing, and I look at Lisa and say, what were we thinking? But you know what's scary? At the time, we paid what was a lot of money for us. And now when I look at it like, why didn't you stop me? Because fashion doesn't last. Vehicles, you're so proud of your vehicle. It's going to wear out. Your electronics, you're going to break it, drop it in the toilet. It'll be outdated in a short amount of time. But Paul tells them what he's hoping to purchase. Verse 15, I will very gladly spend and be spent for your souls. The souls of men and women. This is the eternal part of our being. And he says, that is what I am wanting to spend my life and spend my money for, the souls of men and women that can never be lost. Think about this. 1 million years from now, anybody that we've had a part in them getting saved and coming to Jesus, they will still be saved. They will still be worshiping God with us in heaven. It will last and go on and on and on for eternity. That's what Paul is saying. I'm not trying to buy something that will wear out, break, get lost, be out of fashion. The souls of men and women that will last forever. I am making a purchase that is worth it. And where was it that Paul was wanting to purchase these souls? Corinth, Greece. It's another nation. He was not from Corinth. He was not Greek. He was Jewish. But he said, I gladly will spend so that the souls of men and women in another nation can be saved. The need of the world is so incredibly vast. Right now, there are 8.2 billion people in the world. Over 4 billion of them are unsaved right now, on their way to hell. They say that probably about 2 billion out of the 4 billion who are not saved, in fact, have never even heard the name of Jesus one time. It's estimated that more than 16 million people died last year, and they never heard the gospel even once. That's not right. Most people live in other nations not realizing that life can be any different. Living without hope, living in fear, bound by witchcraft. I remember in South Africa dealing with people that they came from a tradition of witchcraft. They often would be wearing protective charms or strings either around their wrist or their waist, and I'd be praying for them, and they needed a miracle. And I'd say, you know what we need to do? We need to cut that off. And they would tremble, living in terror that somehow their dead relatives are going to be angry at them, or that some evil spirit is going to get them. Not knowing you don't have to live in fear. Bound by false religion. There are people, whether that is Catholicism or any other religion apart from being born again, religion that offers no power, offers no hope, no transformation. And Paul understood he could do something. to reach people in other nations. He understood, I can make decisions about my life. I can make decisions about my money that will enable souls to be reached in other nations of the world. In verse 15, I will very gladly spend and be spent for your souls. Taking the gospel outside the borders of our home nation. That is the greatest need in the entire world. It is the greatest mission in the entire world. People dream of being able to buy something that has incredible value that was unexpected. We love when we read in the news, there was somebody, they bought a painting at an op shop, and hidden in the back was a copy of the Declaration of Independence. We love it. They paid $4 for it, and it sold for $2.5 million. We're like, yes, let's go op shopping tomorrow. We love that. I read today about someone at an estate sale. They saw a painting they really liked, paid $10,000 for it, but it was an original painting by Leonardo da Vinci. They sold it for $450 million. Don't we love that? Like, wow, we paid a little and wow. But what Paul is talking about is the most incredible thing that you can invest your life and your money in. Think about how wonderful God's plan is. Spending and being spent enables every believer to be a part of something larger. If you're willing to give of your finances, if you're willing to spend your time praying for the nations, there will be people in heaven who are there because of you. Listen, you might not have a lick of talent. There's no way you could ever stand up here and sing. Some of you'd be terrified to speak publicly. That's not your thing. That's not your calling. But you could give and you could pray, and there will be people in heaven because of you. And there's not a person here that you cannot be in on that spending plan. Verse 15, I will gladly spend and be spent for your souls. Spending and being spent enables every congregation to be a part of something larger. There are pastors here. Your church is not very large. It would not be impressive in the world's eyes. And that in some ways is intimidating. And then of course the devil sends people like the man who came in when we were pioneering in Johannesburg. He looked around our hall. We had a couple of precious converts, but he was a Christian, and sneering, he looked at me, he said, where are all the people? I said, there's two of them. Come closer, I'll show you where. And some of you pastor a small church right now. To the world, it would not be impressive. But you understand? You can connect yourself to world evangelism. And you can become part of something larger. Listen, send couples overseas if you can. But if you can't, send money. I just preached 2 weeks ago in Chilliwack, Canada. Chilliwack is a small town in British Columbia. It's not impressive numerically. You wouldn't look at that and go, wow. But I'll tell you something powerful they did. They planted a church into Vologda, Russia. And at extreme expense, that they were pushing the limit to support a couple in Vologda, Russia. I was just with Pastor Sergey in China. He was the other speaker with me. He was one of those converts that got saved by the couple that they sent to Vologda, Russia. But now, and they have continued, they were only ever able to send one missionary. But they have still financially supported and partnered with some of the Russian churches. As of today in 2025, now there are 40 churches in Russia. And then they have another 24 churches in 11 other nations: Mongolia, Cuba, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Serbia, Ukraine, Egypt, Venezuela. Thank God. Spending and being spent, and a small church has made incredibly large impact. And then spending and being spent enables some couples who will go to be a part of changing lives in other nations. This is what God does. He calls people personally to go to other nations. My wife and I were teenagers watching a conference video. We are so young. Watching that video, God spoke to both of us. I want you to go to Africa. That was like the moon to me. Like, how could that ever be? You got to understand where I come from. But God called us, and we wound up going in 1997 to Johannesburg, South Africa. And you know what's amazing is that our lives became larger. You can stay in your comfortable place, or you can be a part of changing the world. I think about that. I look at what God has done, and God allowed us to be a part of that. And I am astounded. Little white boy from Prescott, little Aussie girl was able to make impact in Africa. That is incredible. And every missionary, they have seen God use their life. They have that experience. Can you believe that God lets us be a part of reaching lives in another nation? A missionary was asked, what pay do you receive for the hardships you undergo and the sacrifices you make? He pulled out from his pocket a note, a piece of paper. It was clear, it was worn from having been opened and read so many times. And he read these sentences written by a student in China that he had witnessed to and got saved. The Chinese student wrote, "But for you, I would not have known Jesus Christ, our Savior. Every morning I kneel before God and I thank God for you and I pray for you." And the missionary said, that is my pay. To be able to touch other people's lives. And spending and being spent enables a multiplying impact in other nations. John 12:24, verily, verily, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abides alone. But if it die, it brings forth much fruit. This is the hope of every missionary couple, that they could get a convert saved. Not just someone who will get saved and come to church, but will become a disciple. Isn't that what we saw tonight, Brother Kamar Dixon, now a man of God, because from the UK, Abdul and Michelle Yusuf went to Queenstown. And now you are seeing that is the hope of world evangelism, getting someone saved. David and Louise Kennedy went to Bloemfontein. People saved, a church established, disciples made, and now churches are being planted. You could plant a church that could become a church planting center. I want them to put the photo up on the screen. I showed you this last night. In the offering, this is the conference just in September of this year. When my wife and I went in 1997, I think we were the 11th missionary couple to go. We were the second couple in Johannesburg, in that massive city. But now in South Africa, through missionaries, my wife and I, we played our part. The Kennedys, the Yusufs, people from Holland, America, all over, that they went and they spent their lives for a time. And there were churches and fellowships that spent their money. As of today, there are now 139 churches in South Africa, and they have another 47. Thank God. Thank God. Another 47 churches in 9 other nations. In that picture there, I told you 24 churches, 17 of them were in South Africa, 7 were international in 4 other nations, and in that conference, they opened up a new nation for the gospel. They planted a church into the Muslim nation of Tunisia. Thank God. Thank God. Listen to me. Listen to me. Any of you that you invested in Queenstown and Bloemfontein from the UK, I tell you, it's worth it. I would gladly spend. I would gladly be spent to have converts become men of God like you saw reporting tonight. And tonight, there will be announcements made. Remember, you saw a brother. That is a result of your investment. Any of you that were saved and invested when the Yusufs went to Queenstown. Tonight, when these couples are announced, I want you to remember, God already knows the names of the people who will one day come back in conference. And they will say, thank God that you spent so that I could be saved. Let's bow our heads and close our eyes. Thank God.